My name is Yvonne Lobby, and I'm with the Poughkeepsie Public Library District, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a macrame wall hanging. You're going to need 6 lengths of rope that are 6.5 feet long, a 12-inch dowel. Today we're using a 3/8 inch diameter dowel, wooden dowel, a 24-inch piece of cotton cord. This is very thin. This is like a baker's twine. And also you may find useful some tape and a pair of scissors. So first we're going to start with the lark's head knot. You're going to set yourself up. You're going to take your first 6.5 foot length of cord and you're going to fold it in half like this, and you're going to loop it under your dowel rod and pull the tails through like this. This is actually a reverse lark's head, and what makes it a reverse is that the front of the knot is on the back. I'll do that again with my second length of cord. And it's okay if the cord gets a little frayed at the end. It's actually going to look really cool when you're when we're all said and done with it, and you might actually want to fray it when you get done. I wouldn't do it now. I would wait till you have a vision of how it's going to look. So that's our second length. You're going to keep going until you've added all 6 lengths. And you'll notice they're all the fronts of the knots are on the same side. So again, fold it in half. You know, it doesn't have to be exact, just roughly. And then you're going to stick the center underneath the dowel. You're going to put your tails through the loop and pull. I wouldn't fuss too much about where it is and how it looks just yet. We'll wait till we get them all on and then we'll neaten it up. So through the loop, pull the tails. There you go. Put it behind the dowel. Then we're going to pull the tails through the loop. And there you go. Okay. So now you have all 6 lengths tied with a reverse lark's head knot on your dowel, and you've got them pretty tight. You don't have to pull them super tight, but enough that they're not wiggling around on the dowel. And now you're going to actually flip it over, because I actually think that the macrame wall hangings look better with the finished knot at the top facing you, and that will make a difference. So you get that lined up, and this is where the tape can come in handy, because it'll be easier to work the tension in the knots as you go if it's secured to the table or your work surface. Now make sure blue tape is great because it doesn't necessarily mark the surface. I'm working on a cutting mat, so it won't stick permanently and it won't leave any marks. So make sure you have a work surface that you can do that to before you actually put the tape down. Another option is to tie the baker's twine on the ends and then secure it with like a alligator clip to your table, and that way you can still, work the tension in the knots. Okay, so we have our 6 sets of lengths of our sections of rope, and what we're going to do is we're going to treat them 2 groupings at a time. So we're going to have 2 sections that make up 4 lengths, and now we're going to use a square knot. And a square knot you're going to make like a 4, starting on your left. Take your finger, you're going to bring it across, but at the last length, you're actually going to put it underneath. So the 4 goes over the 2 inside. These are called the filler lengths, and then underneath this 4th length. Now you're going to complete the knot. You're going to go under, because you went over here. Now you're going to go under, and you're going to take this and you're actually going to feed it up through the 4. And now you have what looks like a pretzel. You can tie that a little tighter. We can bring that all the way up if you want. Now we're going to make a square knot. Is actually a combination of 2 of those that makes up one whole knot. So again, we're making our 4, and we're going to tuck this last length over. We're going to wrap this under and through the 4 to make our pretzel shape. And there we go. That's our first square knot. So we're going to go on to the next section. And this is really it. This square knots, this is a very simple technique. Once you get the hang of it, it's very meditative. It's kind of like knitting or crocheting. So we're going to make our 4. We're going to bring it under this last length. We're going to take that last length. We're going to go underneath the filler, the 2 interior lengths, and up through to make our pretzel. And there we go. And then this is where it's great. You can kind of tug on the dowel and work with it that way. So we'll reset. We'll make our 4, put it underneath this piece. I'm going to go under the fillers and up through the 4. And there we go. It's our second set, our completed square knot, I should say. Now, do it again. So we'll make our 4. Okay, let's start. We'll make our 4. We're going to go underneath this last length. I'm going to take that last length now, and we're going to bring it underneath these 2 interior lengths and bring it up through the 4. And we'll pull that taut. Okay. Once again, make our 4, and we're going to go and tuck that underneath this last length. Then we're going to take that last length and we're going to bring it underneath the filler and through the 4 and make our pretzel knot. And you're going to tie that taut. You don't want it to be too tight. You want to be able to, work with it. I've seen artists make it so that they're very loose knots, and they make their macrame a much more airy design. So now that we have that, this is where we're at. We have completed 1 row. So 1 row of square knots in these 3 groupings. Now we're gonna do an alternate square knot pattern, or alternating square knot pattern. Basically, we're gonna take these 2 exterior lengths and just put them to the side. And we're gonna treat this section, we'll start here, like the 4. And so we're gonna make our 4, and we're going to, it's easy to get confused, so if you have to pull something to the side to get it out of the way, that's fine. We're going to tuck it underneath the last length, the 4th length, and we're going to take that length, we're going to take it underneath the filler, and we're up through the 4. And there you have your pretzel. And you can pull that a little tight, and we can kind of pull that a little tight, and now we're going to do it again. So we have our 4. I'm going to put it underneath this piece, the last length, which we're also going to bring underneath the center fillers and up through the 4. Now we've completed the square knot. So then, now we're going to do the same with this length, and we can tuck this to the side so it's out of the way. So we're going to start, and we're going to make our 4. I'm going to bring it under this length. I'm going to take the last length, bring it under the two inside lengths we call fillers, and up through the 4 to make your pretzel. And we'll pull that tight, and we'll do it again. So make your 4. You're going to put your last length over the top. So here's your 4. You're going to take this last length, you're going to go underneath your 2 interior fillers and up through the 4. And there you go. That completes a square knot. So this is what we are looking at now. We have what we call 2 rows. The first row is the first 3 square knots, and then the second row is the 2 alternating square knots that joined the 3 groups together. So now we can continue by going back and starting over, starting with our first 4, back over, under the exterior length. Then we're going to take that exterior length and bring it underneath and through the 4. And basically what we're doing is just repeating the square knot again, over, under, and through. And you can play with the tension. It doesn't have to be super tight. You can kind of figure out what you like. And then we're going to go back here to these 4, and we'll do the same thing. Go 4. I'm going to make the 4. There we go. Here, I'll tuck that to the side. Here's my 4. It goes under this last length, which then goes underneath the 2 center fillers and up through the 4. We'll tie that a little tight, and then I'll do the 4 again, and then bring this center piece, this exterior length, underneath the center fillers and through the 4 to make my pretzel. All right, and that's what we did, and we're going to do it again and keep going. And so you can keep alternating, or you can just do the square knot all the way down. This gives it a little bit of a zigzag, but there's no rules. You can kind of play with it if you want. You can also leave spaces in your pattern, so that way the pattern doesn't pick up again until, a couple of inches down the rope. You can get as creative as you want. So here we are again. We're going to finish this one. We're going to do the 4, and we're going to stick it under the last length, stick this length underneath the 2 interior fillers and through the 4 loop to make the pretzel. Okay. No, it's too tight. Okay. Now 4 again, under the filler lengths and through the 4. And keep going. And now I have 3 rows. The first set of square knots, 3 at the top, is row 1. The center set of 2 knots bringing the 3 sections together makes it row 2. And now I have row 3 of my square knots. So I can decide if I want to keep going with the square knots down in the 3 separate sections, or I can do the alternating square knots again, and which I think I will do. So you're going to take the 2 outermost sections of length of rope and put those to the side, and we're going to treat this like 2 interior sections. We're going to make the 4s the square knots. So here's your 4 underneath the exterior length, which then goes, the exterior length goes underneath the interior filler and through the 4 to make a pretzel. Do it again. Here's your 4. Take your exterior length, bring it underneath the filler and through the loop to make your pretzel. And there's 1 square knot. We're going to do this again. And it doesn't take long to start filling it up. The knots actually take up a lot of rope, so you'll see that you're going to start running out of rope. Not yet. We have a couple more rows left, and you can end this at any time, wherever you feel like you like the look of it. You can make this as long as you want, or as short as you want, And I'll show you how to finish it off so that you can frill out the ends and fray the ends, and it gives your macrame texture. Okay, so now I have made 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. I'm going to go back to my original setup of 3 sections and just continue. Under and through. Here's my 4. Here's my 4 exterior section underneath the interior filler sections and through the loop to make the pretzel. And I've completed the square knot. So on to the center section. And the library has many books about macrame and different techniques and tutorials included in the books that you can borrow. And also we have this great service called Creative Bug, which is an online arts and crafts tutorial that they also have macrame classes that you can take at your own pace. And it comes with templates and materials lists, and you can even download the transcript for the tutorial. So if you want to read along, I highly recommend it. There's some great classes on there, and they add new ones all the time. So it's an ever-changing resource. But there's a really fun one now for Macrame Keychains that you can look up and try out. And very simple again with these kind of knots. So we're going to make the 4. We're going to go underneath this exterior tail. We're going to go underneath these interior fillers, and we're going to make the pretzel and tie it up. We're going to do this again and make the pretzel and tie it up. So now I've got, and you can kind of make them a little looser if you don't like it getting too bunched up. And you also can work with it, spread it out a little bit too. So here you can kind of see it looks really nice. Actually, I'm liking where it's going with this. And you can also, I've seen macrame, you can get beads, big beads or copper, little sleeves or pieces of pipe that you can then squeeze onto the rope to finish it off if you'd like. I was even thinking of, once we have the frayed ends, dipping them in watercolor or painting them with watercolor so that the ends are kind of tinted, which is an idea. You can really go wild with these ideas. So, if you do, make sure you send us a picture because I'd love to see it. So I'm going to go back to my alternating, which means that I'm going to take those 2 outermost sections of 2 ropes, and I'm going to treat this like a section, the interior. So we're going to make your 4. I'm going to put it underneath that last length. That length is going to go underneath the filler 2 lengths and through the 4. And now we have a pretzel. All right, again, 4 underneath that last length, which then goes underneath the 2 interior fillers through the loop of the 4 and makes a pretzel. All right, now again, this is, you want to make sure your ropes are flat. You're not starting with the wrong rope either. So here we have our 4. We're going to stick it underneath this outer length. This outer length then goes underneath the 2 interior filler and through the loop of the 4, making a pretzel knot. A pretzel, I should say, not a knot. And then we'll do it again. 4 underneath. This goes underneath the 2 interior fillers through the 4, making a pretzel. All right. Then I'm going to start again. Keep going with my sections, and you can you know, you can play with it. You can spread it out, figure out the tension that you like. You still have wiggle room here to play with. You know, the overall design and the way the spacing works. But we're getting there. So you have plenty of length with this 6.5 feet. You can keep going. All right, keep going here. 4 under this length. This length goes underneath and through the 4. Pull that a little tight. Do it again. And then through. And pull. And pretzel. And we've completed a square knot. We're going to go to the center. Do the same thing. 4. Underneath and through. You notice I use my body against my table too to kind of hold the center pieces so that way they don't move when I'm tightening the knot. You can use whatever tricks you want to make it work for you. Okay, we have now the 4. We're going to go through the 4 underneath the last length, which then goes underneath the 2 fillers and up through the 4 loop. Makes the pretzel. Do it again, and that will complete the knot because the square knot is made up of 2 of those sequences. So here we go. So let's do another row. Or do I want to do another row? Maybe I won't. Yeah, I will. All right, so I'm going to take these 2 exterior sections and put them out, and I'm going to treat this section as one. Again, make sure your ropes are not mixed up. Put it through and under, which then goes through here. We're going to pull it and do it again. Can you see? Okay. And one more time. These 2 sections. And we're going to go under and through. Pull that a little taut. Do it again. And there we go. All right. So now, and you can again make this a little bit more, the interiors more pronounced, the holes, the gaps. Now we've got a finished, I'm going to stop, I mean we keep going, but I'm going to stop at this point. So you're going to have excess rope to work with. You can leave it here as it is. You could take these and just make a simple knot at the end between every 2 sections, 2 lengths, if you like. Simple sewing knot. Here we go. Again. And then this. And then this. Or you could just leave it like it is and, so you might have to fiddle around with the way it looks just to get it to where you want it to look. Great. Okay. It's a little bit like braiding. Can't decide if I like that or not. It's not bad. Okay, so here's the kind of fun, foofy part of it. We can start working on the tails, if you will, by unraveling the cotton cord, however you like, however long you like. You could also leave it, if you wanted to leave it tight, and then maybe find one of those beads I was talking about and thread that on there. And maybe just add a little bit of glue, and then the glue will stop the bead from falling off. So this one's very long. I'm going to actually trim this tail so it matches. Here, I'm going to move this up so you can see what I'm doing. All right, so this tail's really long, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut this. Trim it up a little bit. And start unraveling it. And that's the nice thing about this really thick cotton cord. It's very easy to work with. It's all natural. It takes dye. If you want to use fabric dye and like dip it in, you can do that. I was thinking just, you know, painting watercolor or making little cups of watercolor like Easter egg dye and just dip it in and let it soak it up a little bit on the ends. And some other alternatives, you could use a really nice piece of a copper pipe, for example, or you can get at Home Depot, or a twig or a piece of driftwood that you find. You can use that as the in place of the dowel rod. There's a lot of things you can do that can make this fun, and you know, exercise some creativity. But this is a very nice thing to do, especially in the winter when you're closed in the house. You have a little cabin fever. It's, like I said, somewhat meditative. Once you get going, you can make a really large one and really, you know, take your time working on it. I've seen people set up big elaborate pipes in their rooms, in their craft room or the living room, to essentially work on their macrame, like a giant wall hanging. Okay, so here we're getting a little frayed. And this one has a little bit of tape on it, so I'm going to have to cut that off. It's the beginning of the spool of rope. And this again is where it's really great to be able to tape down or secure the dowel to the surface of you're working on, so that way you can pull on this. I'm not pulling very hard, but enough that I can actually, I don't have to worry about it like sliding all over the place. All right, so this one's very tiny. So you have to take that into consideration, like if you want the end result to look different, you're going to have to probably trim all the other pieces so they're all equal length, or maybe you're going to make a pattern with it, like a point with the ends. It's up to you. And all I did at the end there when I tied those knots, those were basically like a shoe tying knot. They were not very complicated. It's just a bow, which everybody should know how to do. Keep it simple. Okay. Really. It's fascinating rope, how they get it to twist like that and stay. Okay, that's that one. And this rope is actually even more, it's thicker, so you could actually keep unraveling if you want to really get fluffy and poofy. You can keep unraveling each of these separate skeins or sections of the rope itself. All the way down. Okay. All right, so then kind of like combing it with my fingers, essentially. I have to decide what I want to do. If I want to do, maybe I will trim it. So you have this one little short length here. I'm not sure why I had such a short length there, but it could be how I started. So that is my shortest length, so I'll probably go through. This is where it helps if you have a really good pair of scissors. Nice sharp pair. It's like cutting bangs. You don't ever want to just go ahead and cut them the shortest length. You want to kind of start a little lower and work your way up. because the cotton has some spring to it and it'll shrink back up. All right, so we're getting there. It's a little longer here. Maybe I will even take a piece of tape here and essentially give my string a bowl cut and go across this way. I actually need better scissors. These scissors are not good. These are better ones. Okay. Let's see. All right. And you can just kind of play with it from here. I think I'll make these a little shorter on the ends. Feels more natural to me. Take this tape back. And voila. Now, like I said, you can even go sitting there on the couch, watching a movie or television show, or maybe you're listening to an audiobook, and you could really start getting these strings unwound and getting really bushy with the tails, if you will. To complete your macrame wall hanging, you're going to need to take your skinny cotton cord. I'm just going to finish frying these here in the middle. Untape your macrame from the table, maybe flip it over, and all I'm doing is a simple, bow tie knot, as if I were tying a shoe, if you will, or a ribbon on a package, and maybe double knotting it just to make sure it's secure. Okay, same thing on the other side. Through. I'm going to trim some of this excess so it's a little neater. And you now have your macrame hanging. It looks really good. I'm happy with it. I might actually, like I said, take the comb and work on this stuff so it's a little fluffier at the bottom. And work on the pattern a little bit so it's a little looser on the dowel so you can see more of the pattern. Okay, thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this program. If you have any questions, you can email me. It's YLAUBE, so it's Yvonne Lobby. That's YL as in Larry, A as in Apple, U as in umbrella, B as in boy, E as in Edgar, at PokeLib, POKLIB.org. Thank you.